Thank you. Well, very good evening and welcome to this evening's Harborne online ward forum meeting, and welcome to everybody that has joined us. Second item is a notice of the recording, as Bev has just alluded to, and to advise you all that listening and participating on this online meeting that it is being recorded and it will be available, I think, on YouTube. I think, is that right, Bev, for future record?
Yes, it is. That's right.
Okay, right. Okay. Our last meeting that we had was a standalone meeting, which was actually looking at the ward forum priorities. Jane and I thought, having looked at them, they were quite, I wouldn't say old, but because of the pandemic and not being able to do an awful lot, we surely felt that needed a refresh. And Karen Cheney very kindly did facilitate for us. But I think because we ran out of time, I think we were down to the last 2 or 3 priorities. So Jane and myself and Karen thought the best thing to do was to actually use this forum to actually do the last 2 or 3, of which Karen will facilitate and take us through. So without further ado, Karen, may I also, I must introduce Louise Bassant, who is the Cleaner, Greener Streets, and she'll be telling us about the programme that she has been discussing, I think, with Councillor O'Shea and others, and hopefully hear from you as well what you would like to see cleaner and greener in Harborne. So without further ado, Karen, can I hand over to you to facilitate, please? Seem to have lost her. Maybe that she's gone off.
Hello, sorry, I am here. I was just trying to share my screen before I came on picture. So if you just hold on for 2 seconds whilst I just share my screen.
No, that's fine, and thank you for agreeing to facilitate once again, which I find very helpful. And is it 2 or 3 priorities that we have to finish off?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I think it's the environment, I think highways and young people, if I'm not mistaken. Lovely. Yeah. Okay. Over to you, Link.
Just bear with me, everybody. I'm just gonna bring it up.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed.
Just let me know when if it's on the screen.
Okay, will do. And thank you.
Complete.
And whilst Karen's doing that, I think that I'll look if I recall turning over my
Karen, can we all borrow your tech advisor, please? I need one of those.
Can you see? It's my daughter. I've been dubbed in.
And as I was saying, I think that subject to time, if we have enough time before the finish at 8 o'clock, then any resident issues we'll try and cover after that with Karen. So yes, I've got reload to display presentation, if that helps you, Karen.
It's because it's not a presentation. So you need to open it in here.
There's me trying to be all clever.
So yeah, go find it.
Well, whilst that's being still sorted out, I'd like to welcome Marie Brown, who is a highways officer. And I guess, Marie, you'll be talking about or listening to about any highways issues.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Councillor.
Thank you, Marie, and thank you for joining us. Yes. And I see that Debbie Kerslake is waiting in the lobby.
Okay. Yeah, just letting her in, Councillor.
Thank you.
You go back to here.
Are you with us, Debbie?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I had technical problems getting in. So.
I think we all have a bit of these technical issues with Teams. But there at last, you were pleased to hear, Karen, that the Harborne Ward Plan 2019-2022 is now on the screen. So I'll hand over to you as our facilitator. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Good job. We all have a very tech savvy person in the house. So I thought this time I would actually put the Harborne plan up because I think that way it's going to be easier to see the priorities, which do. So in terms of the environment, I'm going to work backwards actually, because we always miss out the last ones, don't we, if we do it the other way. So bear with me. So the last one was around young people, with the priorities being keeping parks clean and safe to encourage use, support for local groups such as Welsh House Farm, Big Local, Scout and Girl Guiding Groups, and work with schools and local youth organisations to promote opportunities. And I, from memory, we had a long discussion around, at the last time we did this a couple of years ago, was actually there was probably quite a lot going on in Harborne, but we needed to promote those existing opportunities, and then perhaps for business owners to identify opportunities for work experience. So I think, Councillor, it's those that we probably need to discuss first, and I shall keep some notes so that as I did with the last ones, just so we can add this bit in from today.
Just before you continue, Karen, just as a reminder here, might be on the wrong person, but I think I'm right. Jane, is young people part of your portfolio as a cabinet member? I can't hear it at the moment, but maybe I think it comes under Jane. But if you continue, I'm sure Jane will make some comments anyway. Thank you, Karen. Sorry to disturb.
So whilst I've put this up on screen, I actually can't see the list of people.
They only see the screen. They'll only see the document, so you can scroll whilst you.
Right.
So is there anybody who wants to contribute to this particular part, or does it still seem to be spot on? Have there been any advances on those two priorities that have been put forward in the plan?
Again, Karen, I don't think so. I remember certainly on the environment, and I'm looking here, keeping parks clean and safe to encourage use. I think that's possibly another area where our local representative, Sue Amy, would come in. But I see that there's a hand up from Louise from the Cleaner Streets Home. Louise, if you want to contribute there, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just to say it might be worthwhile talking to Darren Share, because I know he's got or has put forward at least an apprenticeship programme. I'm not exactly sure where it's at the moment, but it is all about young people and parks. So it might be worthwhile talking to Darren Share, either in this format or another format, to find out if where he's actually got on that. We've all got targets as local government officers regarding apprenticeship, so I suspect that might go a long way. And I know that some of that was about corporate parenting as well.
Okay, that's helpful. Just on business owners, Karen, I don't know whether she's has joined us tonight, but if not, we can certainly talk to her. I'm looking at business owners to identify opportunities. That would be helpful with Kate Smart and the bid group, I would have thought.
Yes, so would you like Kate's name to be put I think
that would be helpful, because we are working the ward plan, which the business plan should be supporting the priorities of the residents. So yes, I think that would be helpful, which then Kate could contribute. Kevin, I see that you're have raised your hand.
Thank you. One of my concerns, I'd say, in Harborne at the moment is probably the lack of youth service provision in this area of the city. What are we going to do in terms of addressing that? Because we've got issues at the moment where large groups of youths are getting access to tower blocks, they're drinking, they're smoking cannabis, and I've got a feeling that some of them are going to end up going down the wrong path in life if they're not steered in the right direction earlier on. So I'm thinking, what in terms of diversionary activities and programs that we can put in place for them, what can we do?
I think, Kevin, that is, and I thank you for that question. That is very, very helpful. Again, that is probably circling around, I guess, a multi-agency, as in working with the police, with our antisocial behaviour teams, with, I think, again, it might be Jane as portfolio holder for young people. And I think now you've mentioned that, we can now feed that in, Kevin, and then hopefully on the next time we come back to look at the ward priorities there under young people, we'll have added more meat to the bone and names to the bone. And I would hope that, Karen, hope I'm not speaking out of term here, that once we've collated all this information, we'll be able to put it out to the wider public, Harborne Facebook page and all other avenues where people can actually read. And then, because this is a working document, Kevin, let's make sure that it's always a working document. So as things work on, we can add, refresh and add on as new things come on. But we as well can go back to the rants, Kevin, and we can talk with officers and saying what is on stream for our young people. And I think that's probably the best way. Would I be right, Karen?
I think so. I mean, I don't know whether there is a bit of a directory of what is actually on already. Certainly, I think we do need Welsh House Farm aspect of the ward as well, which Bev has put in. So
yes,
getting those inclusion from Michael. And others on the call may already know. I know the new church, not the new church, the old church on the High Street looks as if it's now finished.
Yes, it looks really nice.
Building, and I don't know whether they've had some discussion around their programming, or if somebody usually comes to the ward forum meeting, where there might actually now be a wee bit more space available for activities for young people from the extended building. So that might be another area as well, because I know we are pretty short of bespoke space for young people.
Okay, thank you. Just before I go on to that, I see that Councillor Francis seems to be having trouble, so she's going to log out and try back in again. I think that's a great point, actually, Karen, because we have a lot of church activities of all churches, and it would be good to actually link with the clerks to the churches and find out, and then you can go from organisations. And I think there must be, I noticed that for some reason, there was a gentleman's name that came, and I think it was in the original one. There was a name of Tim O'Neill. I know Bev asked me, and I couldn't remember. I just remember the name of Tim O'Neill. And there was another gentleman, pardon me for saying this, but a foreign sounding name, and I can't remember. He was actually, at my request, was going to talk to, again, to Michael Thor and to Graham Bryan, who's the chair of the big local, and find out what information they have and what work they're doing. So again, I think, again, Karen, that could be added to the list of names of who we actually contact. And I think if we start off with Graham Bryan, who is the chair of the big local, and I think another person, Jennifer Carter, she may be another person that might be able to help because of the housing, etc. But we're starting, the nice thing is that we are actually starting to build up some activities and some contact names. And that for me is absolutely excellent. And it's out for us all then, if we can come back, and if you've got any contacts that people know, you can always email to Karen or to Beverly or myself or Jane or all four of us.
So it might also be something, there will be a youth officer who covers the constituency. Forgive me, I'm a bit out of date now. I'm not quite sure who it is, but they may have some level of directory just to start with. And that might be somebody else you can add into your conversations going forward.
Sure. I think it was a name like Iliung or something. That was the person.
No, that's adult education and skills.
Oh, right, thank you. That was the
Rather
person
than
I
the
originally
youth
spoke
service.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
But I can find that out and I will add that in. So I think that there's more questions than answers on that bit, but I think that's useful.
I think I can see in the big, sorry to interrupt there, Karen. I'm just seeing that Marie Hill, a guest, who are the big local, from my knowledge, they are a community organisation, some voluntary, some paid, and I think that they are funded, and it is actually countrywide. That, for example, Welsh House Farm have a big local, and that is chaired by Graham Bryan, and there is Dee and a lady called Dee, and I can't think of how to pronounce her full name. And there's a gentleman called Michael Thorne, and a number of other people that actually have now moved from what is called the Haven, which is another community unit headed by Simon and Rachel. And I will find out some more information, Marie, and for the next time we'll try and get an update exactly what Welsh House Farm do. But I can tell you from my experience, it is a great organisation on the Welsh House Farm, and they operate now out of the children's centre just on Brilston Road, and they have a lot of great activities throughout the year. But Marie, thank you for that question, and we will try and get some more information for you as well, which we'll come back to, well, I guess via Councillor Francis, because she'll be in the chair on that one. Sorry, Karen, I'll leave it to Karen.
That's all right. And just to add, Marie, it's government funding for a number of years, which is given to local organisations made up of local people to make a local difference in their local neighbourhood. And they were successful in the last round of Big Local. So there are 3 in the city, Birchfield and over in the Hodge Hill area as well. So they've got a couple more years left, I think, in terms of that funding.
Okay, just before I hand back to you again, Karen, I see Councillor Francis has been able to log out and come back in again. And again, she may be able to pick up on the youth and education, etc. Good evening, Jane, over to you.
I certainly have. It's really frustrating 15 minutes because I could hear all the conversation, but the screen was freezing. Yes, you just picked up on Big Local, so I think Karen's adequately responded to that. The report, when we were talking about the ward priorities in terms of young people, the piece of work that I think was being referenced was a major research report that was launched last week called Breaking Down Barriers, which is sponsored by myself and the deputy leader. And it's going to be a 12-month programme of work across the city to make sure that we're actually listening and doing things for our young people. So I will keep you all updated with that as and when. So apologies for the technology issues tonight. Thank you.
No, it's very helpful, and it is you, as you say, under your portfolio, as I was saying earlier, Jane, that comes under you, which is that's helpful to know.
Absolutely. I thought its portfolio is education, skills and culture, so it's not just things like youth services, but employment, career services, libraries, all those things. Yeah. Thank you.
Jane, I don't know whether you heard it as well with employment, that we were looking at the business owners to identify opportunities for work experience, and it sounds like yourself and Kate Smart there then, because we were looking at the bid manager.
Chair, I heard that conversation.
Okay,
I wasn't able to respond to it at the time. The bigger piece of work will be a citywide thing to do with youth unemployment, how we address particular hotspots across the city. There are some which are far worse than others. Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Yeah,
all I'd say.
So again, we'll have a lot more updates and involvements and knowledge in the October, I think it's October meeting, which we're chairing anyway. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Karen, over to you.
Okay, so the next one working up is the constant one that's in Harborne, and I know this myself as I live on one of the roads that gets all the traffic on it. It's around parking, traffic management and highway maintenance. with the specific issue, as you can see there, if I scroll up, the lack of parking provision, particularly in areas such as that near to the hospital site and the street parking resulting in congestion, the parking problems near schools creating safety issues, and that of speeding. You can see some of the specifics there that were put down as the actions a couple of years ago, working with residents to implement possible workable parking schemes, perhaps wider afield, a bit more strategic, the expanding park and ride in the city, ensuring planning applications in Harborne contain sufficient off-road parking, and the 20-mile-an-hour zones, which I think had just been introduced when we did the initial plan. So some of the ways that was being put forward was about the work in schools to promote responsible parking and active travel, and identifying specific areas for some of the additional measures of parking that were there, and around possibly community car share scheme, which was a bit more longer term, I think. So I think Marie's on the call, isn't she now? It might be worth Marie just updating on some of the things that have happened over the last couple of years on that, and then perhaps we can add in additional ones, if that's okay, Marie.
Hello, yes, good evening, Karen.
Hiya, Marie.
Oh, lack of parking. Right, okay. Well, yes, well, we have got some 20s, various roads around Harborne. The Harborne ward has been implemented. There's a problem with when it comes to speeding, it's down to the police to enforce. We know that, and the police haven't got the resources to be there to be the amount of requests or complaints they get via us highways and the local councillors and residents about speeding. It's a big problem throughout the city, not just Harborne, but when some areas which has got the 20, it's even putting more pressure on the police. It's all right having these 20s, but who's going to enforce? We as highways, if funding's there and it meets criteria, we can put in some form of harming measures, but as we know, there's a criteria. But as I said, we have got 20s in various roads in the Harborne ward. Congestion outside school, that's another city problem, not just Harborne. And a lot of the culprits, as we know, are the parents themselves, won't walk to school or walk their children to school. They want to drive and drive more or less to the front door to drop their children off. It's working with the parents. The school's got a lot to play, and I know a lot of the schools throughout the city are working with the parents, but down to the parents, they just don't want to listen. And again, yes, we can send the civil enforcement officers out to keep the school keep clear markings clear, but of course they can't be there outside every school. But we can take a look, some form of enforcement actions with the yellow markings and school keep clear markings outside. Head office, I know there's a little bit, I don't know whether I want to touch on it now, but the big parking master plan, which head office has been managing, they're going to start the consultation the next week, early August. So all the residents affected, directly affected, will be consulted with drawings and proposals detailing what we are proposing to implement in their road or in the area or areas of Harborne, which is good news. I mean, I know it's been a while working on that big master plan, but I've been told today that they're going to be consulting in the next early August, which is next week, I think towards the end of next week.
So that's taken about 3 years then to get to
That's taken a while. It really has taken a while, yes. Parking application, Harborne, sufficient officer, consider suitable 20 miles. Yep, okay. I think that is it, really.
Could I ask, Marie, that you mentioned the parking permits? I do know that there is frustration because there were certain areas, and I haven't got the map in front of me.
Yeah.
But I think it was not the St Mary's side of it, it's the other side of the high street where there was calls for, and I can't recall whether it was Station Road and or other areas around that area that were saying that they welcomed parking permits, and I just wondered why, because I think, if I recall, I think they're not included, and I can't remember why.
Yeah, well, a lot of the when it started, probably about 3, 4, maybe even a bit longer, and there was a lot of roads. I personally put forward a lot of roads, and the councillors did as well, to be included or to at least be considered. And a lot of roads did form part of the proposals. But after 12 months, couple of years, some of the roads, well, a lot of the roads got dropped off because of funding. The scheme became too big. In other words, it was just far too big. It exceeded the available budget, so a lot of the roads are just chopped off. But I've got a copy of the drawing showing what roads are going to be consulted upon towards the end of next week, and I was told that they have sent it on to the councillors, but the public will be consulted on the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye on your postbox. As well, it's going to be on Be Heard as well, so you can go on the BCC website to have a look at the drawings, and also to give us your comments.
Could I ask then, Marie, and thank you for that update on the parking permits. I did write down on my sheet here, funding question mark, so you just confirmed that it was. Could I request that, I'm sure Jane will probably agree with it as well, it would be helpful to actually go back and ask, well, if it's down to funding, then the people that were consulted around the Station Road and areas around there that actually said, yes, we would like parking permits, it would be helpful for us to be able to go back to those residents and say that we are now searching for funding to implement. I know it'll take a while, that's per 3 years, but at least if they know that something is being looked at to provide parking permits the other side of the high street, then I think that would be very welcomed by residents who live all around there.
Well, I did ask the officer managing this scheme. I specifically asked through quite a few roads at her, Rose, Park Hill, all those roads around there. Okay. Just to double check, because I was coming here tonight, obviously, and none of these roads are included. None of them. Park Hill, Rose, Gordon, Station.
So my question would be then, Marie, that with those, I'm pretty sure that a number of those roads that actually wanted to have parking permits implemented in their areas, but it now being said they've been just gently pushed aside for the moment because of lack of funding. So I'm asking if we can find out through all those people that have been dealing with it, when will they now start reviewing that side of the village, so we can then start to inform local residents around there that this hopefully when it'll possibly start taking place, so at least they can focus on the future, so to speak, that they haven't been forgotten, and that we're looking to try and implement that area.
I'll send an email, Councillor, at the end of this meeting, and I'll copy you and Councillor Francis in. I'll ask the question.
That would be helpful. So I've taken a bit of time, Karen, but I thought it was helpful with the parking permits of what Jane and I could remember.
Absolutely, no, that's fine. So there's a bit there that I can add to the ward plan, but also I've noted down, and perhaps still needs to remain a priority, is those areas for resident parking that haven't been included in the current parking master plan. That the priority is to identify in the future funding for those areas, because presumably they're still a priority within the ward plan.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think that what we'd like to try and do is sometime during the summer, when you've gone back to them, and then we can actually let residents know on that side you haven't been forgotten. We are now seriously looking for funding opportunities to consult. I guess we're going to do that, and I know you have already, but historically you'll reconsult and just confirm, and I'm sure they will just get it on board. Thank you.
So I don't know whether there are other colleagues on the call who just want to add any contributions to this particular bit.
Well, I've got Jane coming in first. So, Jane, if you can come in, and then that give residents opportunity to have a think if they want to come in and make some comments. Thank you, Jane.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. One of the things that I think is really important is clarity here. So we need to be very sure what we're asking of officers to find information about, particularly as far as budgets are concerned, and make sure that matches what the resident ask is. And I would argue that at the moment our knowledge and intelligence is mixed, to say the least. So I'm aware that there are a number of residents who would like parking schemes, but certainly conversations that I have had of late point to a number of residents who don't want such schemes because the impacts on other things such as going to the high street and have you. So we need to tread very cautiously and make sure that we are defining quite clearly what we're asking of officers to do, and do not go back to residents with any sort of, you know, we might be doing this or we might be doing that, because quite frankly, that isn't helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would support that, as you may have heard me saying that I know that there's funding, but it's actually, and you've actually just alluded to what I was saying, was that there's possibly a need to go back to people and confirm again, because it has been a while, and then we'll see, because if it is mixed, and again, conversations that we've obviously both had, we found some for and some against, but my knowledge of I've found that a lot of people are still for the parking permits. They've been quite frustrated that they've been left out, but we know now it's funding, and let's leave it to the office to then the officers rather to go back and have a rethink of and then coming forward with talking to residents on that side of the village. Karen, I'm just wondering whether there's any.
Sorry to interrupt. We also need to be absolutely sure of who we're asking, because since the original consultation, there will have been across Harborne considerable churn in terms of people renting accommodation in particular. So what we thought we knew, or whatever people knew 5-6 years ago, probably won't be the case now.
Yeah, but yeah, and that a lot of the consultation was probably done some 3 years ago. But again, you're right. It's just, again, coming back to, it's still worth, I think, going back to the officers and saying, right, when you're in that time to find funding for that side of the high street, then that's when you can do the consultation. And as you said, Jane, let's find out how they're feeling. And yes, feelings and thoughts may have changed. So yes, I agree with you.
Yeah,
Karen.
well, the original consultation must be coming up to about 10 years now, because my previous boss, who's been retired, it's got to be about 10 years or coming up to, it was like 50-50. We didn't get enough support for the scheme to take the scheme forward.
Okay.
I mean, I started over in 2007. So that's 14 years. So it's probably coming up about 10 years ago when there was a very big consultation. And as I said, we didn't get enough support to take that forward. But yes, things have changed since then. And yes, Councillor Francis is right. I mean, that's why I wouldn't put anything to the residents, especially such as touchy or very difficult subject like parking, because we all know the problem with parking in Harborne, especially these roads up the high street. So we'll have to have something sort of concrete and a guarantee of funding really before we took anything or take anything to the local residents. But I'll discuss it with you.
So
you and Councillor Francis before I draft an email.
Marie, just so I've got clarity what I'm right, but there is a parking master plan consultation going on in mid-August for those residents affected.
Yes.
Is it on Be Heard yet?
Sorry.
Is it on Be Heard yet? And if it isn't, can I have the link so I can pop it in the paperwork?
Okay.
Smashing.
Right, I made a note of that, Karen.
Thanks, Marie.
I'm just wondering if there's any comments from residents that might want to make any comments on highways at all. I'm not hearing anybody.
Great.
If you have the opportunity, if it's something you think of a little bit later on, then please come back and we can go back a bit as well. Thank you. Rob Sutton, and then James.
It just seems to me with this, and we know how much parking is a problem in Harborne and quite sensitive, that we ought to, or you ought to be getting a consultation as to whether people want these things before we go asking, officers to spend time and money, coming up with plans and so forth. It seems to be cart before the horse.
How do you mean, sorry, Rob? You
Well,
broke up with
you're
me.
presuming that you seem to be presuming that there is an issue, and there's no evidence that there is an issue other than anecdotal at the moment. Why not go out to people and do a consultation in the areas that don't have schemes at the moment, and say, if a scheme was to come forward, would you be or not be supportive of it?
Yes, I think that's pretty much what Jane and I were saying, is that things may have changed, so there would be that need to do that before you did anything, because, as you say, things may have changed. Okay, thanks for that, Rob. I've got James, then Mike.
Yeah, I'll be quick. And I don't know if this really fits in there. I just saw, parking, traffic management, and highway, and I'm just wondering about, I suppose, provision for cycling and alternative modes of transport. If parking is such a problem, then maybe reducing the need for cars around is a good thing. Anyway, I'll leave it there. It's probably the wrong spot to put it.
No, it does come under highways, James. So yes, we do need to be looking here, because again, it's cars, it's pedestrians, it's cyclists and other modes of transport. So it all comes into it, James. So no, you were quite right to point out about cyclists. So thank you for that, Mike.
Yeah, thanks. Just stating the obvious, really. I suppose a lot of these studies that have been done before, life has changed dramatically over the last 2 or 3 years. Particularly with people working from home. So, parking has become, more sort of expanded, but also the new sort of shopping at home with all the delivery vans and what have you. It just seems to me like common sense to put out a new sort of almost a questionnaire to the residents of Harborne to ask the question whether they would be, if they're a resident or homeowner. I don't know whether you can just direct it to homeowners as opposed to short-term tenants, but ask the question around parking permits. Would they be prepared to pay for a facility of that nature? Would they be interested in one-way road systems to ease off some of the challenges that a number of roads have off the high street, particularly around Rose Road and Park Hill Road, for example? And also look at what's happening with Rose Road Police Station, because that in itself causes a huge problem, with the immediate 4 or 5 roads where personnel that work at the police station park their vehicles almost covering 3 shifts. And there's probably about 20 or 30 cars parked where they could potentially be using some of the facilities that the police station have. So I just think it might be time to revisit the question for residents to participate, because life has changed so much. Houses, these Victorian terraced houses, were never built with 2 or 3 cars per household in mind. But of course, that's where we are. And I think, a relook needs to be done, and it needs to be pushed along fairly quickly, because otherwise information quickly, falls out of date.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Mike. Dom Stanford.
Hi there, thanks very much. I was just wondering, I saw a video in the last couple of weeks of, I think, the MP on Harborne High Street. I was just wondering if we could get clarity on what the planned work is there and when it would be expected. And I apologise if I missed that slightly early on in the meeting whilst I was driving.
On where did you say, Dom?
On the High Street itself.
Oh, what work was it? Oh, that's the question you're asking. I don't know.
It is. I think it was a video with Preet Gill and Councillor Francis.
That's right, and I'm sure I can be of assistance, Councillor Stanford. Yes, there is some work. We were making a short film a couple of weeks ago whilst outside the Santander Bank, which is going to be closed down because there was a proposal to do some resurfacing work on the High Street. So we're waiting for that full announcement to be made, and I'm sure as a councillor in Quinton that you'll be kept in the loop with that. Thank you.
Right, I think Karen, at the moment, I think everybody has spoken about the highways. And Mike, you were talking about Park Hill Road and Rose Road.
Yeah, I think that there's probably 5 or 6 roads immediately near to Rose Road and Park Hill that seem to have, horrendous problems. But of course, when you live there, which I do, and have done for 11 years, you see the problems that are on your doorstep. I'm sure that there are other roads that have equally tough challenges, but I think this needs to be put out fairly quickly to a wider audience to ask the question, because I know there's a number of initiatives going on at the moment with various petitions and what have you, but nothing is sort of cohesive. It's all being done disparately, and people are doing it for their own immediate locality. So perhaps somebody needs to take ownership of it and drive it. I don't know who that person or persons are.
I think Mike makes some very valid points. It's a very complex picture with huge differences across the ward with what people want to need. And of course, most people don't, as car owners, don't see it as just a problem for them. It's always somebody else who's creating difficulties. I think there is work to do, because this is an issue that keeps resurfacing time after time after time in our ward meeting. And I think there's a lot of strong feeling about it. And I think we need to be very clear and upfront about what we can and what we can't do, because somewhere along the line there are going to be some people who don't get what they want. And I think honesty of approach and transparency is really important. But I certainly agree, it's a dialogue that we've got to continue, and we need to have some coherent consultation mechanism. Yeah. I actually take the view that it's not enough just to do the Be Heard consultation, because in my experience, it's not something that's used particularly well. Lots and lots of people get their information, rightly or wrongly, from social media, and that fuels all sorts of discussions and debates. So I think the onus is on us as a council and as 2 councillors here to find up to a sort of clarity of approach in terms of what we're doing to save this, having this conversation for the next 5 years, quite frankly. Thank you.
Yeah. Well
Can I just say, sorry, Marie Brown, the local engineer. Yes, I am aware. I get a lot of requests from the local residents from various roads in Harborne for residents parking. And I've always responded to say, yes, I'm aware of what's happening and I appreciate your concern, but we could never, especially in the area of Harborne, consider a road or roads. It's going to be a complete area. We'll have to look at the bigger picture, and it will become a very big scheme. And a lot of the roads, Park Hill, Rose, Gordon, North, Grays, Clarence, they're all relatively narrow roads with very, very high on-street parking. So there'll be a knock-on effect. That's what I'm saying. So yes, I take on board your comments, and that's why I would never, obviously I work closely with the councillors in any ward and with any scheme or proposals we're thinking of putting forward, but we would have to have the funding secured before we progress or involve or start the consultation with the local residents. Thank you.
And also,
okay. Can I just come in then? So what I'm going to put down on the revised action plan is, obviously, as the action holder, Marie, we would need to put your name against that, and it's possibly, because we're reviewing this sort of at one level. It may well be that actually there does need to be a a reviewed look at, and I've called it a traffic summit, which is very grand, but you know what I mean. It looks as if there's that, because it has moved on, that there would need to be something very bespoke around traffic. And I am going to move us on, because we'll be in the same position we were in last time if we don't. That we
I just have to make one more, if I may, because this has been a bit of a bear, I think, going around, and I'm conscious of this potential for Nursery Road being made a one-way, and I'm pleased to see that I was some concern that residents were being fully informed about this before a potential trial going ahead. And now this, I'm pleased to say that Councillor Zaffer has now decided and agreed that he will, or the highways will consult, and I'll look to Marie to confirm, is that all emergency services, local councillors and all residents will be consulted before any implementation of anything on Nursery Road. And I can see Councillor Francis wants to come in for a comment.
Absolutely, and it was only ever such, Councillor Fowler, and I was also copied this afternoon into the same email, which stated very clearly that no decision had been made and they were proposing. And that is exactly what it is. It is what it says on the tin. No decisions have been made. When those discussions are taken forward, all relevant councillors will be involved, including both Harborne and Edgbaston, and there will be a full consultation with all potentially affected residents. But this has been live streamed. I'm really, really pleased about it, because I just wanted to say categorically that no decision has been made. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, likewise, categorically, Jane, that likewise with the writing to Councillor Zaffer following your good self and Pre-Gill MP discussion about turning it into a one-way, doing what you call is a temporary traffic road order, which means that you don't have to consult residents. You can just do it and then tell them afterwards. And as I've said to you and to Councillor Zaffer and others, that is for me not the right way to go. You have to consult with all people first and then see if it's worth implementing. I know that there's some residents on Nursery Road, and I understand the problems they go through, but I've had, like yourself, a lot of residents saying that it's something that people have been used to for many years. As Marie said, it's been going on for 10 years or more. And I believe that you were also part of a cross-party situation where it was all agreed that a one-way system is not viable. But I'm grateful that that a system is going to come through where all residents and the emergency services are going to be informed, because there are a lot of problems. It's a B road. It is a blues, which is the emergency services. It's their main route as well. So I'm just glad that Councillor Zaffer has now decided to change his mind and not go straight for a temporary traffic road order.
No. Councillor Zaffer did not change his mind this afternoon. That proposal was only ever such a proposal. So no decision was made 3 weeks ago.
Jane, we'll move on to this, because I'm not going to have an argument over airwaves here. But I can tell you the email I've got that confirms that all those people I've mentioned will be consulted, and that was the right way to do it. Karen,
and of course, Peter, Councillor Fowler, it'd be very helpful if you didn't take it upon yourself to disperse letters to councillors, to residents in the ward, without being very sure of what you're saying. Thank you.
I think I was very sure. Karen, please take over.
Right, I'm going to go to the environment pages. Hopefully you can see these now, because I know Louise is on the call, which is great. So it's some of this is in terms of what has been done. So and I know within the team that Louise is in, obviously there has been a lot of proactive work on this. So can people still see the plan up on the screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So in terms of street cleanliness, I'm not going to read it out, Louise, because you can see it. But I just wondered if you were able to update on that first one around litter and fly tipping, because I know in the last 12 to 18 months, there's actually been quite a lot that's been added on this.
Happy to. Can I request control for a second?
Yeah, I'll just have to take mine off though, won't I? Because of
Well, I can request it. It doesn't really matter, I suppose.
Yeah.
So there's been a number of initiatives that have been launched in the last few weeks, couple of weeks actually. Let me just see if I can share my screen with you. I'm really sorry, it's really hot in my village at the moment. And my computer's going slow. Has everyone gone off to have a cup of tea whilst I do this? Right, so it's just taking a couple of minutes. So effectively, the last 4 or 5 weeks, Birmingham City Council have launched a £7.2 million worth of investment into street cleansing, recycling, enforcement, all sorts of things that affect people's streets and actually what goes into it. And some of it is a little bit more linked to one thing than another. For example, mobile recycling centres. So we know at the moment that people struggle to get to recycling centres. So we've launched some recycling facilities. If somebody could tell me, Karen, if you could tell me where you can see my screen, that'd be helpful.
Something's happening.
What I need is a young person. Can I borrow yours?
You can have her for as long as you want.
Mine's going off to university in September. I'm very upset about it.
So we can see your screen, but at the moment we can see. We can't see if you're going to show. That's it. We can now. We could then. We saw it for a bit. Your love your streets bit. It's gone again.
Oh,
yeah, I can't see it.
Okay, really...
It flashed on for a second.
I think you might have something here, though.
I'm getting very fed up with our technology at the moment. So there's 8 things that's going into cleaner green streets at the moment. There's some additional funding for things like mobile household recycling centres, which I just mentioned, deep cleansing crews, additional fridge crews, and they're called WEEE crews, and they're called that because there's only one way you can get rid of something like that, and they have to go through special. Oh, has this come up?
Yes, it did just come up then. There you go. Love your streets.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we've got it now, Louise. Louise, if you're struggling, do you want to send it to me and I'll try and put it on?
No, it's all I
Okay.
should be able to do it.
Okay, fine.
Because if I can't do this, I'm going to struggle for the rest of my life, I think.
Okay, but there's the option if you need me to
no, thank you, Beverly, you're a star. So we've got a number of initiatives that have created £7.2 million worth of investment in the city in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So additional fridge crews, that's picking up fridges across the city. Additional crews to tackle red carded properties. Red carded properties are the ones that can't have wheelie bins. That creates sacks on streets, which is a bit of an issue. We've got community environmental wardens, tip marked schemes, partnerships with Keep Britain Tidy, additional graffiti, loads of stuff that's going on at the moment. My job in this, and I'm just trying to move you on so you can see it, is Love Your Street specifically. So the £7.2 million investment are looking at 12 mobile household recycling vehicles, 3 per depots, allocated on fly tipping hotspot areas. We have a lot of data. It's something we have to do to the government every month called fly capture. So we know where the fly tipping hotspots areas are. So they're being allocated to those, and all 69 wards will get at least 1 visit from one of those. We've got 4 additional deep cleaning crews for street cleansing across the city. So that's 1 per depot. So Harborne will get an additional one, 10 additional dumping crews across the city. And when we call, I hate the word dumping, I have to say, because actually it's environmental crime, but where the dumping is, crews that can literally go out and do it. 4 additional fly tipping crews, so that's probably more the fly tipping that is more business related, as opposed to it's a mattress on the street. 3 additional, we've doubled the fridge service, removal of fridges, and we've got additional waste enforcement. And to my
Hello. Have we lost you, Louise?
We've lost Louise, or we've lost her voice.
Right.
Marie, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, with the fly tipping, like, is it mostly caused, like, I just wondered how much it's caused by the charge that, like, because is it £50 or something to, like, get the council to, like, take the waste away? Is because, like, if there was if that happened, sorry. If people weren't fly tipping in the first place, then, like, all these, I just wondered if the council are thinking about removing that charge ever, or in the foreseeable future.
I don't know if Louise can hear anymore, but I was certainly on another call that was with community organisations that we run in the city, Pioneer Places, Marie, and I think the research has been done that actually the charge doesn't make the difference, that actually people who are going to fly tip will fly tip, and it's actually not, it's not usually those who are responsible and want to get rid of unwanted items from their property. So I don't think that the correlation isn't as tight as you would think it might be. That certainly was the discussion that I had last week. But I am, if you like, it's not my area of speciality, that, and I think we've lost Louise, but yeah. I've noted it down, Marie, just so we can add that back. But I think the main things that we need to add to the action plan, I think, is this new initiative, Love Your Streets, which is much more the focus on neighbourhoods and communities doing good stuff for themselves, and the opportunities to work in partnership with the service that Louise is from, in terms of street scene, to actually do that. And what I'll do, if she can't get back on the call, is we'll make sure through Bev that the presentation is available and is sent out to everybody who usually attends the meeting. But I think for me, in terms of looking at the bit around the plan, it looks as if there are some additional resources and capacity that the ward are able to access through that, be it the mobile household recycling, which looks amazing, but also the new barrows, the easier to move barrows that are available. So certainly we'll add that to the plan. But Louise did say she was having problems, didn't she? So given that I know you've got other items that you wanted to discuss, Councillor, I think we may have to move on from that, unless there's anybody who would like to ask something on the very brief bit that Louise did mention that we can add into the action plan.
Okay.
So, Marie, I think is yours an old hand, or is that something in addition?
Yeah, no, that was everything. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Right, so I think at the moment, unless Louise comes back, I think we can say that we've completed the ward priorities at this moment, as far as we can go.
I think we've covered everything, and that we said we would cover. And I know Rob sent some additional comments post the last meeting, just on the one in the plan around community assets. So I can see Rob's got his hand up, so I presume that's the bit Rob, that he just wants to update.
Hi, yeah, you've second guessed what I was going to say. I think we need to introduce something around community activity in the plan, providing opportunities for local people for cultural health and well-being and community activity. I know we've got local space, but when we did our consultation, this was a theme that came out very strongly from local people. And we had a lot of people complete that consultation. So I think that's something that the ward plan should reflect.
It would also sound, Rob, that when we're talking about cultural activities, etc., I guess it's recognising just what community involvement that there is. You've got a Welsh House Farm doing their community things. You've got Morpool doing theirs, and I guess it's potentially collating, if we can, and activities that are around. And I guess that you're still referring to where we are with the royalty, yes?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The royalty is an ideal location for what we're proposing to do, but I'm saying that we did an open consultation asking people what they wanted. And one of the things that came through is that people don't necessarily want to be travelling into the city. They want to be able to go to local places, to go to things like live performance. Harborne in the past had pubs and things where you could go and watch, live performers, acts and things, put on bands and so forth. And that's something they'd like to see back. So whether it's at the Royalty or whether it's somewhere else, we think the plan should be supporting those activities. I mean, Morpool has the Circle Cinema and does very well with that. And activities like that should be helped and encouraged. And if we could do more of it, we should. If we can put on live performance or some sort of local theatre area where people can go. We might not necessarily have the facilities at the moment, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't look at potential future assets for delivering those.
Yeah, I would agree. Have we seen the excuse me? Sorry. Have we seen that consultation, Rob? We have to remind
you will have seen that consultation several times, so you're bored with it probably.
Sorry, because we just go through.
I can send it you again if you'd like me to.
Yes, please. Yes, that would be helpful. Then we can look at it again when we come to the next one in October. Right, I think I saw somebody come in.
Louise is back, Chair. I don't know where it means.
Back,
but before we go, Mike's asking how he can get involved in future meetings. Mike, the link to these meetings is sent out by Officer Beverly Edmead, and she'll do that. Before we move on, can I just pick up on Rob's point about cultural activities? And it's part of my portfolio, arts and culture, and it's been fascinating recently to learn that Harborne, we put out a call to local organisations and agencies to make bids for the Commonwealth Games funding, arts and cultural funding, and absolutely nothing came from Harborne at all. Now, it's not the end of it. You can still submit something to be looked at in the autumn, but I'm just saying we're trying to help local organisations with money, but it's proving very, very difficult to get organisations to respond. Right, I think, I don't know what's going on the screen, but quite a lot. So I'm going to stop talking.
Thank you. Right. Louise, back to you. I see you back in. Thank you very much indeed.
Sorry, can I just so that
Yes, of course.
doing it in a logical way. So is there an agreement that we do that the ward want to include that additional priority around community activities? I think in terms of COVID recovery, when we are now all sort of able to leave our houses and do stuff, perhaps initially in open spaces, but obviously it's I think that's it's a good point, and it's something that is new and amplified since we did the ward plan before. So if you would like me to put that in, so when it goes out for completed, is that something that you would like me to do?
I think so, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to. And also what we can do, Councillor Francis, in terms of the it's the Creative City small grants you're referring to, isn't it?
Yes, Karen.
Yeah. So again, what we can do is make a commitment to make sure that that goes out to the mailing list with the ward meeting that Bev has got, just to encourage those people, because we've got groups on as well, to that they're aware of that funding, but also there is there are a couple of closing dates, aren't there? It's a bit like this Celebrating Communities budget.
I think that'd be extremely helpful, because when I've had discussions in my capacity as bid director with Cape Smart, we've worked really hard at trying to get local networks involved. There seems to be far more going on in the north of the ward, in Edgbaston, but nothing that was particularly pertinent to Harborne. So I'm really keen to promote it, and it may well be that in a few weeks' time we can start thinking about how we might involve schools in that process as well, in terms of arts and culture. Right, I think we should go back to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Louise. I am going to put a time restriction on, because I know this meeting is due to finish at 8, and the ward plan was due to finish, because I know there are other items. So in terms of sort of an overview, Louise, is it possible to have a copy of the presentation so we can circulate it out after the meeting? But also, I suppose in terms of this, it's that we include Love Your Streets more into, because it's a new initiative, into the ward plan, and that people are aware it exists, and how the ward and local groups can link up with yourself in terms of how they can get involved in the new initiative. So I'm going to say till 1:45, so that enables the other items just to be added in.
I'm just wondering, is any, when you've gone through this, Louise, give any residents the opportunity to make some of their comments about cleaner, greener, what they possibly are looking for Harborne. What you can
She's
deliver.
Gone again. I must have upset her. I think okay. Louise has just gone again.
Okay. Well,
I think, councillors, if you're happy with this, I think if we can send out Louise's presentation, because I think it's very comprehensive, and pick it up. I'll add bits into the ward plan on Love Your Streets, because I think that's really important, because it is where the community can get involved in some of that stuff, and that perhaps you invite Louise back to future meetings, to once we've had that, people can see how they can get involved once the presentation's gone out.
Yeah, Chair, I think that's a really good idea. I think we should, because we've been ever so slightly shortchanged by Louise this evening, it may well be that there are technical problems like I had earlier. Yeah. I think we should invite her back to the October meeting. and that will give people time to digest the content of the presentation that she's made available. And then we can go through it more thoroughly, and then make sure that it's linked into the ward plan.
Yeah.
That'd be my suggestion.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I can see Marie's making a comment. Yes, I think it's her email, and Bev, you responded.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I just saw it come up the top there.
But I will put a tag, I will put in, and I think this is then will be the end of the ward plan bit. I'll add in the Love Your Streets bit and the environmental bit.
Lovely.
And also I'll add an additional priority around community and cultural activities in there as well. So I think, Councillor Fowler, I've done my bit, my facilitation, and I'm going to hand it back because I think you have got other things on the agenda.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you very much for excellent facilitating there, and that was very helpful. And I look forward to all the notes and things coming back to the ward forum back in, I think it's October, end of October, isn't it, Karen or Bev? Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, I think we just need to confirm a date, but yeah, we can do that afterwards. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's around about the 26th, something like that. It just brings back memories to end of the last Monday, I think, something like that. Okay, thank you for that. It's a great shame that Louise has had technical problems with hers. I was really looking forward to seeing that presentation and what can be delivered to Harborne. And I know there was something else that I'd requested to a gentleman called Mark Airy about something. I think it might have been the recycling of something, truck or something coming to Harborne. Oh, you don't know, not aware of that. Marie, is anything at all? No, probably not. Okay, I think they've all disappeared. Right.
Sorry, was that councillor? Was that? Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know whether you knew about highways at all. Louise might have known. Unfortunately, she's gone. I remember.
No, I'm not. No.
Oh, Louise, I had an email.
I'm bouncing around from post to post, I think, with our masks at the moment. Sorry about this.
Right. Okay. I was just saying I had an email, like all councillors. I think it was supposed to do with John O'Shea, councillor, about some wagon inviting us to request a wagon coming round. I can't remember what it was. I spoke to a gentleman called Mark Airy because that was your
mobile recycling vehicle.
That's the one. Thank you. The mobile recycling.
Yes, there's mobile Yeah. So if I could ever put a presentation in front of you, I would have spoken to you about this at length. We've got 6 across the city at the moment, which are being rolled out, and they're for areas where people might struggle to get to the household recycling centres.
Excellent. And I guess a request from my side of it, Welsh House Farm, would that be included?
I don't know the plan at the moment, but what I would ask is that you ask Mark Airy to come to one of these meetings and tell him what his rollout area. They are being prepared in areas where we've got massive fly tipping, so that they've got priority areas. But at the moment, I don't actually know what those are.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. Sadly, that Welsh House Farm does suffer a little bit with fly tipping, etc. So yes, I think that would be very helpful. Bev, we can invite Mark Airy, and I'm saying that I'm hoping Jane will be happy because she'll be chairing the next meeting. I'll come in a moment, Rob.
Just going to ask about those collection services on Moorpool. In the past, we've done some community projects, and they had I think they were called the hit squad. They used to come out, and if we were clearing areas as groups, they'd come out and help get rid of the debris if we were clearing woodland areas or grassed areas or such like. Is that something that would be available to community groups now?
Yeah. So do you mind, Councillor, if I answer that question?
Yeah, please carry
yeah,
on.
So if I'd have given you my presentation, which technology is refusing to let me do, we've got a new community offer. So it's not just in days gone by, we used to come to us, the local authority, and say, can I borrow some litter pickers, can I have some sacks and some high vis, and can we go out and do something? And we'd loan you some equipment. All of that has changed now. The community offer is massively changed. So we now give you equipment, but we do ask that you tell us where you're cleaning up so we can go and get the sacks. But the sacks are now no longer grey and black, they're bright blue. And they're bright blue because if I drive down the city centre and see any more black sacks, I will cry. It's got to look like something we're proud of. So the community offer is about £250,000 investment in equipment. So it's not just litter pickers, it's hose and rakes and blue sacks.
How would you access that?
Yeah, so you get it through the website. So if you go on to birmingham.gov.uk, community litter picking, register yourself as a community litter picker, tell us what you need. We have open days where you can come to the depot and collect equipment. We have lots of different sorts of equipment now. We do not lend it to you anymore, though we give it to you.
You got a JCB?
As it happens, I do. But I'm not allowed to use it a lot.
Okay, another time. Thank you.
Right. Any more questions that people might have? We have 15 minutes left, although we have to go till 8 o'clock. But
do you want me to finish this blooming presentation?
If you're able to, because people are listening here.
Sorry, can I make a suggestion here, Louise? In your absence, our suggestion was that people take the contents of your presentation away, and that you will be invited back to our meeting in October.
Lovely. Sorry, I didn't hear
that. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be a bit dashed, a bit rushed.
Yes, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Right, thank you for that, Jane. We'll see you back then in at the end of October then, Louise.
Yes.
If that's okay. Thanks very much indeed. Okay, with that completed on the ward form refresh and completion priorities, and we look forward to Karen's update in due course. I've got here, if we had a bit of time, which we have, item 4, should we have a bit of extra time, local updates and information. I've got here ward councillors. Jane.
Thanks. I think we've covered lots of it in terms of parking and road safety, and the plan that we're going to continue refreshing and adding to for the ward. The only other thing I could add that was relevant to the ward is we had a visit recently from the Police and Crime Commission, and we went to housing projects in Harborne to look at antisocial behaviour, and then went over to meet with some street watch volunteers on the Moorpool estate, and it was just the opportunity to give residents the chance to have a conversation with low-level crime and antisocial behaviour issue. Finally, we picked up on what's going on with the Commonwealth Games. There is a public launch on Wednesday, I think this week, in Centenary Square. About 100 days to go, and to promote community involvement and engagement in that. The only other thing I wanted to mention was at the beginning of September, I know we haven't had Kate Smart on the call tonight, but there is a community fete in Harborne at the beginning of September, which I hope people will attend, because it's a really good way of showing support for local businesses, and just to celebrate having a nice time. That's all from me. Anything from you, Peter?
Thank you. I think you've covered pretty much most of it. That fete, I think, is the 12th of September, and I hope many people will come along as possible. Just on boards, we had the consultation on Gordon Road. Marie, how did you feedback from that? I think it ended on the 23rd?
Yes, councillor. Yes, the consultation finished last. In fact, I was just checking my emails. Actually, still a couple responses coming through, but it's very, very clear indeed that the local residents do not want the scheme. But I will be updating you and Councillor Francis the next couple of days, because, as I said, there's still a couple of emails coming through on the exact figures. But I can confirm that I've received no support for the proposals. No support at all.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it. We've done Nursery Road, we've done Gordon Road, etc. Although I am pleased to say that I did put a request in for Rose Road, which I have to say for me is probably the worst road that I can see as far as potholes, and I've always said to residents it looks like a patchwork quilt, and quite agreed. And I have had I think I've had the confirmation that Rose Road will be resurfaced, so I'm quite pleased about that. Although requests for Victoria Road, Wall Lane, which is another one that is for me it's a disaster area as far as potholes and what have you. Vicarage Road and a number of others sadly haven't made it for some reason, but I will be talking with officers and probably taking them on a site visit to find out why or when they'll be added to the list, because some of them have not been touched for years. I think Wentworth Park Avenue is another one, and a number of others, but hopefully in October I'll be able to update residents further, and I'll certainly let residents of Rose Road know the very good news. I think they'll be absolutely delighted. Moving on to our next one, which is residents' news and views and Street Watch. Now, I don't think that we've got anybody from the police or Street Watch, so residents' news and views, of which there is. Oh, hello. Gavin. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember a while ago there used to be a programme run in Birmingham called the Safer Estates Partnership, and that was where housing associations, the council and other landlords would work together to share intelligence on antisocial behaviour and crime. Does this scheme still exist, and if not, will it be resurrected and put back into place? Because I have noticed a rise in antisocial behaviour, and I think given houses of multiple occupancy which are not being run and managed properly, of which we've got several in the area that I live in, and also in surrounding areas as well, that this could actually prove really useful in protecting the community and ensuring community safety.
Yeah, that is one, Kevin, and thank you for that question. I think as residents know that HMOs are kind of growing, and I know there's a lot of resentment from residents about the growth and some of the dumping and fly tipping that does happen. Not all, I grant you, but they're also working with the other situation with exempt support accommodation. And again, that has a similar situation. There are good landlords and there are bad landlords, but I do know that the council and officers are increasing in numbers to be visiting HMOs and supported accommodation. And I can tell you, certainly on supported accommodation, that I know that one of the people that is pushing for an awful lot, cross-party, I have to say, that Councillor Sharon Thompson has been working hard on this and also trying to get a bill through Parliament. Is there anything else that I've missed out there? Oh, Louise?
Yeah, it was just to say that.
I think, question?
Oh no, actually, it was just to say that I think that partnership's been replaced with something called the local delivery partnership groups,
right?
Which meet every week, and I know because I go to them, they go on for a long time. And there's police, West Midlands Fire Service, all sorts of people on those tackling the issues when they get to them. I am not. I haven't seen a plan, but that doesn't mean there isn't one because I'm only an invited guest. But they are that multi-agency approach is actually in place at the moment.
Okay. If it's okay with you, Bev, or Kevin, you can send it to myself and Jane. Any particular concerns that you've got, we will then pass it on to that group, because I know that with antisocial behaviour, there is a lady called Caroline Anson who deals with that. So we can.
Well, the person that's organising all of those is a woman called Amelia Murray. So she's got cross. So,
look,
so it's
that's a new one to me. So thank you.
Citywide thing.
Lovely.
So I think they are actually. Well, I think they're really very good actually, because I've managed to get really good relationships with all sorts of partners because of that. So they are happening. I think what they're dealing with at the moment is post-COVID. behaviour, which we didn't, when they first set up, they obviously didn't have. So they're struggling, not struggling a little bit, but they're dealing with a lot of raves and parties and stuff like that, which they didn't ever expect to have to deal with, but they are.
Okay, thank you for that. And Kevin, if you want to send us an email on top of what we've just discussed, we'll make sure that it gets passed to the right people and a response to you. Is that okay, Kevin?
Yes, that's fine.
Lovely. Thanks very much indeed. We got to the Harborne bid, as Jane has said, that we haven't got Kate Smart with us, who's the bid manager. As you sit on that board, Jane, have you got any information for us that you haven't mentioned to us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything that most people aren't familiar with. Harborne bid has been very successful, and as a neighbourhood, we've been spectacularly successful in attracting new businesses to Harborne, inward investment, particularly in the hospitality sector, which is really, really important with sort of bars and restaurants. There has been some concern about very low level crime, but that seems to have been picked up. There is a new security system in place. The benches on the high street have been massively successful over the summer period, whilst we've still been in sort of lockdown mentality. So it's all going really, really well. Kate Smart has done a fantastic job as manager. So I'm pleased, and I think we should make sure that we invite her to the October meeting, and then we can talk about the hopeful success of the fete in September. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Marie or Jane from the bid, I've had a number of people actually asking about these red and white barriers that are in the high street and when they're going to be removed from some businesses. The quicker the better. Marie, I don't know whether you've got any answers to that or who arranged it.
No, I've been aware, Councillor Fowler, that there have been some issues raised with the barriers on social media. I don't think Marie, if she's still on the call, will be in a position to know that. We had to keep them while distancing was required. I will find out and advise colleagues when they can be properly removed. I do need to remind people that we're still in quite a challenging situation as far as COVID's concerned, because even though the case rate has dropped in the past 3 days, there is a significant problem with younger people. And the key age group for passing on is the 16 to 24-year-olds. So I think we might want to keep them for as long as we can, as long as they're not too much of a hassle for businesses or residents. Louise, did you want to come in?
I actually was just going to echo what you said. They're there for a reason, and some of it is about traffic calming, some of it is about people's behaviour, and the individual high streets needs are the individual high streets needs. We do know, we are staring actually in the face of a third wave, which might look like it's going down, but we're all very nervous about it at the moment. So I don't think anyone in the local authority is going to take people's safety at risk at the moment. So if it's worth a couple of weeks just keeping those in place, I think that's what we're going to do. We do understand, the local authority does understand that they're not the most beautiful things on the planet, but neither is the pandemic, actually. So in very real terms, safety first, aesthetics.
Well, I do know that they're removing them, as Councillor Francis rightly says, but they are removing some of these red and white blocks, barriers in some areas, but they're keeping them on the Harborne High Street a little bit longer. A couple of areas or districts, and I know Harborne is one, that they just want to keep them. Just
I think it's largely where there's a nighttime economy, isn't there? Largely, it's where there's that kind of footfall.
High footfall, yes.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that, because Marie said that some are going out, but Harborne isn't.
Lots have already gone, actually. Lots have already gone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the point is that lots have got, so Digbeth, lots have gone in Digbeth, but it's got to be done by a kind of individual area need based approach, and I would take very grave concerns about people putting our resident safety at risk if there's no reason to.
Well, I'm kind of confused that if certain areas have taken them out, because I'm asking this because I've had a number of businesses ask me about when they're coming out, because it's affecting a business.
It's footfall, Councillor Fowler. It's about footfall. So if there's less footfall, the risk of taking them out is less.
That's correct. And some of the issues for businesses on the high street have been to do with that they have to be rearranged for access purposes, so that be loaded and offloading the businesses, and sometimes they don't get correctly put back.
Yeah,
there have also been issues of graffiti and a sort of anti-vaxxer movement being on the high street and doing things about it. So I think ultimately it'd be good when they're gone, but we have to literally follow the science and only do that when it's safe to do so.
There is still a pandemic, despite
still a pandemic, and we have one side of the high street which has got a very narrow pavement, and the other side hasn't. So you know, aesthetically they're not the best things I've seen, but they're there for a very good reason.
But neither are face masks, can I just say?
Yes. Yeah. Can we arrange then, Marie, I don't know who does it, because there's quite a lot, as you said, that are being moved about, and I need straightening out and what have you.
It's in all our interest if those things are removed fairly quickly, in terms of access to the high street. Yep. However, no one's going to do it if we're putting anybody at risk, and that's the balance of an approach that we're going through as a local authority at the moment.
Right. Okay. Well, it'd be helpful to get something through an email or something, so I can advise these businesses accordingly. Because I just said I would bring it up at the ward forum, which I think.
Marie, who's in charge of that for Harborne? Who is it?
Laurent. I'm just listening to you, but I'm just looking for the latest email. But definitely, I can send an email to you tomorrow, councillors, giving you the update, because I received an email about that, and I thought you and Councillor Francis were copied in. But basically, as we've just said, because of the high footfall, some areas they are collecting them in, but Harborne is one of the areas which they are leaving out longer.
And in some areas, we've got one side of the street that's gone, another side of the street that's in place because of the narrowness. So it's going to be a balance of, I suspect, Marie, with Lawrence. Did you say it's Lawrence?
Laurent.
Laurent is going to make a judgment call, isn't he, effectively?
Yeah. One thing that we need to be mindful of is that Harborne and Edgbaston generally had a particular spike a couple of weeks ago in terms of rates of COVID infection, to do with university campus and universities closing down, and the number of people that were testing positively. Now that has informed some of the reasons for keeping the very physical barriers in place, because there was a significant problem in Harborne and Edgbaston.
And you've got another 6 weeks before the university students are back.
We're running late.
So thank you very much indeed, Jane. So thank you for that, Louise. That's very, very helpful. And thank you to Marie for all your input. I think that the next ward forum will be towards the end of October. But in the meantime, can I thank everybody for coming on board and their questions as well, which has all been very helpful. And Bev, I'm sure you'll be collating any questions, and we'll be able to respond accordingly to questions that have been asked. Is that right, Bev?
Yes, we'll do. And the recording of the meeting will also be put on our YouTube channel. So I'll get that done soon. Well, that'll be done tomorrow or Wednesday. Louise then looks so embarrassed. You'll be fine. so yes, that will all go. That will all be sorted out.
And I've sent Beverly the presentation, and I've sent it to you, Councillor Francis and Councillor Fowler.
Thank you.
So that you can share it with the public. Actually.
Lovely. Okay. Many thanks all. Have a very good evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Bev.
Thank you.
Everybody. Bye.
Bye.